back to Obsessive Prepper AZ. Hey, I've got something on my mind I want to discuss with you. The headline on the video is why you should continue to prep, but I've got a lot of other things going through my mind that I've been wanting to do a video on. And sometimes I do videos and it's more to show you how to prep and not so much a discussion video. So I hope this works for you. I hope it answers some questions for people and kind of goes through with some of the things that I have in my mind. Now, first of all, I have been talking to Yarn Prepper. I've become friends with her recently. We do a lot of talking on Instagram. I really do read a lot of your comments. Unfortunately, I want to apologize. After I put out a video, I'll answer the first couple hundred comments, but eventually it just gets too much for me. I do have a life, so apologies, but I do read a lot of the comments. And in the comments on Instagram with Yarn Prepper, we have great discussions. One of the discussions is talking about why you should continue to prep, why it needs to be a lifestyle. And in our discussion, she's talked about, she watches tons of prepping videos. I have to admit, I do not watch very many prepping videos anymore. I don't need to. I'm very experienced with it. I know there's solid preppers out there, and I know there's a lot of preppers that just pop up because of the times, what is going on, and they're trying to get a piece of the YouTube pie. That's what Yarn Prepper says, a YouTube piece of the pie. And I think what I'm trying to tell you all is go to valid, solid preppers out there. If you're wanting to learn how to prep and you're new to prepping, go to the people that have been around for several years. Go to their channels, look at them, and make sure that they're giving solid advice. It is very easy to go out and buy a bag of rice, a case of water, some flour, a lighter, and say, look, this is what you need to do to be prepped. It doesn't mean they have solid experience of prepping and what happens to your preps after you've prepped them. And by going to solid people, I'm going to just pull one, Alaska Prepper. He has a great channel. He's been doing this for a long time and he's got great advice. And by going to somebody that has knowledge in prepping, you're just going to benefit in the long run. Because I think a lot of people go out because they see these videos, spur of the moment, go buy a case of this or a case of that, stockpile a bunch of stuff, and then really don't follow through with it. And we saw that a lot during 9/11 Y2K, where people went out and bought gas masks and freeze-dried foods and all this plethora of stuff. And then in the long run, didn't do anything with it, didn't continue to prep, and said, prepping's a failure, I'm not going to do it anymore. The people that have prepped and made it a lifestyle are the ones that are still prepping today. And we have learned a lot about prepping. Any prepper out there that tells you that they've never had any fails are just lying, because I have fails. And by prepping long term, you learn what those fails are. You learn. I did a video with my daughter talking about some of the things that I would never ever use again in my preps, that I would never purchase. Condiments was a #1 thing. I really went crazy with condiments. And I've learned over the years, I'll have a little bit of it, but I'm not going to have a ton of it. So I highly suggest, if you haven't seen any of the videos, if you're new to my channel, go over to my playlist and check out my videos, because there is some solid advice. Alaska Prepper has solid advice. And don't just go to the people that have got a new video up on prepping. And I've seen so many where they show you their pantry and I just shake my head going, this isn't prepping. It's a good start. You should have a well-prepped pantry, but if you go out and buy a bunch of stuff, you're going to see a ton of fails. And I don't want that, because prepping is not cheap. It is expensive on several degrees if you're trying to do a year's supply for your family, 6 months supply. So I am going to repeat myself when I do these videos. I repeat myself a lot. but it's because I keep going back to what my head says. Learn from experienced preppers. Keep it a lifestyle. Make it a lifestyle. And if you do that, you're going to have fails too, but you're going to learn from those fails, and you're not going to prep cases and cases of one thing and then find out it doesn't work later, and then it's just nothing but a fail and you give up. Gonna leave it there. Boy, that was long-winded, wasn't it? Well, moving on. Secondly, I want to discuss, I actually got my feelings hurt this last week because I was willing to do something, and then I've kind of like had this little angel on this side, do it, and then this angel says, nope, I'm not doing it. Let me explain. So my husband has somebody that he talks to, and his wife is an avid canner. She goes to the store, she buys a case of mason jars, and she does her potatoes, her pinto beans, her chicken, and she does it for a hobby. Okay, that's great. Now, as preppers, we prep mason jars, we prep our lids, we prep for these things. And this kind of story is going to go back and forth because this is how my head is kind of handling it. We prep for these things. And if you don't, you should. Now, I did a video years ago showing you my pantry. And in that video, I show you all my lids, my mason jars. I have hundreds of mason jars. I have a container of lids that I keep. This is just a mixture. I have another container of wide mouth and regular mouth lids. I plan for certain events. I plan. And I know it kind of sounds odd to people that are new to prepping, but you can never be guaranteed that the things that you need are going to be there. Perfect example is this whole virus thing shut the stores down, and the stores were emptied out of a lot of different things. In that older video, what I discuss is, what about power outages? What if you have a freezer full of meats and you have a power outage? What are you going to do with all of that meat? So as a prepper, I am a big advocate for purchasing a canner. You don't have to purchase an All-American. You can go out and just get the Presto canner with the gauge. They're $80, give or take. I know that mason jars are short right now. They're very limited. What's out there, the stores are gouging. I did a video on my Instagram. If you don't know that I have an Instagram, I have an Instagram, and I'll go to the stores, and it doesn't necessarily mean my Instagram is about prepping. I do a lot of things, and I'll show you that on day to day. So I'll do stories and post, mostly stories. But I show you the stores are just gouging what they have and what is left. And if I happen to find something, I try to pass it on to you. But going back to my older videos, what if you have a power outage? If you have a canner, if you have mason jars, if we have our lids stored, then we're not going to have an issue pulling that out if we have proper propane, proper fuel that we can use our canner, because as preppers we need to think about that kind of thing, and we can can our product so it's shelf stable. Going to another example, if you're in an area where you have deer and elk, but there's no power, what are you going to do with that meat? Again, by having the mason jars, by having the canner, you have no issues. You're already prepped for that. You already can take care of yourself. Okay, going back to my husband talking to his friend. Wife's a canner. Sorry, I get dry here because I've got fans blowing in my face. Wife's a canner. She does it as a hobby. She went to the store to go find quart-sized mason jars and lids. I know that she's a canner, so she's probably looking more for lids. They don't have any. So I tell my husband while he's on the phone, and I kind of say, put him on hold for a second, and I read him I'll leave it up here, but basically the jars are going to be kind of held back until March 1st, 2021, because they have a shortage and they're prepping for the canning season. So they're hard to find. So as he's telling me this, I'm like, you know what? I'll give her some of my lids. I've got a ton of lids. I can give her some. So I leave the room. He gets off the phone. His friend tells his wife, and she just goes off on preppers. Preppers are hoarders. Preppers are this. I do this as a hobby, and there should be jars. The preppers are hoarding them all. Well, I'm sorry. That's what happens. If you don't take care of your family, if you don't have plan for these things, it doesn't make a difference if it's jars or if it's toilet paper. There's going to be a shortage. It is what it is. It's not the preppers out there that are buying up all the jars, spur of the moment. I don't need to. I've got cases of them. The only thing, if you are a canner, you always run out of jelly jars because you give somebody a jar of jelly and they keep the jar and you never see it again. But as far as my quart jars, I do purchase from time to time. I'm not gonna lie. I went to Winco, I saw 2 cases of them and I picked them up. Me purchasing 2 cases is not the problem. The problem is people being unprepared and expecting those grocery stores to be stocked. And I'm using mason jars as one example. We watched during this virus shelves get empty of so many products. People want to yell that the preppers are taking it. It's not the preppers because we're already prepared. We already have, oatmeal from April 2012. I had said on a previous video, my house, I was out of oatmeal. But I have stores of oatmeal at another location. 2012. I don't have to go buy the oatmeal. If I'm purchasing it at the store, it's because I'm replenishing the preps that I have. So people that are out there yelling that we're hoarders, that we're stealing your mason jar hobby, I'm sorry, but that's not the issue. Finally, people have this thing in their head that they need to prep. And I just want to say, again, keep prepping. I applaud everybody that's out there prepping. I hope more people prep so that if she was to be a prepper, she used to be a prepper, she's no longer. If she was still a prepper, she would be amply supplied with lids. And again, I've got, you all that can out there, you know this is an old box of lids. I have got old boxes of lids. I purchase lids all the time, and I have plenty for my family. If I'm at the store, I'll pick up a box. Just recently, the mason jars wiped off the shelves. Walmart had some mainstay regular boxes, and I picked up a couple of these. This is another older box. So I'm not the problem because I've been buying this stuff for years and stockpiling it. So I had to get that out there because I kind of get hurt that people go to as we're hoarders when we know we're not. And it's an easy shout that they can do to vent their frustration. When all along they shouldn't be frustrated at us. They should be frustrated at themselves. And if you're new to the channel, this is why I reiterate why you should prep. We are so spoiled in our country. We expect the stores to be stocked. We expect everything to be there when we're ready for it, when we're ready to grab. Lately, you go to the store and it's a hit or miss. If the products that you normally buy are even there, we still are having shortages on product. Now we roll into the election. Last night was the last debate. Who knows going to be president? We don't know what's going to happen. Are we going to have the virus hit us again? And to all you new preppers out there, if you're new to the channel, this is why you should prep. You don't know what the day-to-day is going to be. And I'm not telling anybody to be paranoid. This is not a paranoid status that I live on. It's just an awareness of what can happen. Natural disasters. We see hurricanes all the time destroying areas. So you need to learn how to prep for those areas. maybe glass in an earthquake zone. I have people that watch my videos and say, you need to put rubber bands on them, you need to secure your jars. I'm not in an earthquake, zone. And if Arizona gets that bad of an earthquake, we're kind of screwed anyways. Sorry, that's just the honest truth of it. But if you live in California and you've got mason jars, you need to do that extra step. And that's where I keep going back to. As long-term preppers, we learn what we need to do. We find out what our fails are. And so, yeah, this video, it's a little bit of everything. Going to multitude of subscribers making comments about jars, asking me specific questions. It doesn't make a difference what you do with your preps. I don't care if you have pickle jars and that's what you put your rice in once it's clean and sterilized. If you're putting food in a garbage can and doing it properly, that's awesome. When I tell you to use a food saver to suck the oxygen, it's just one more way of not having to do oxygen absorbers. If you don't have a food saver, you have oxygen absorbers, use those. If you don't have anything, maybe dry can. Look at videos on brake bleeders on how to seal jars. We know there's a shortage on jars. So with all my older videos on anything I possibly have, go to my prepping playlist. I show you how to do it all. People ask me all the time, how am I putting things in cans? Through the LDS cannery, they have a canner. I have friends that I can get the canner from, and I put things in cans. You don't have that option, you can't get the canner, then mason jars. If you can't do mason jars, because there's a shortage on them, they're too expensive, then the jars that you use, be it ragu or international creamer containers, any of those containers to store your product. What I'm telling you is examples in how to do it. So all the people that make comments down below after each video, I'm just suggesting different ways that you can store your product, how to store them. Here I've got a mason jar. Here I've got noodles that I have actual oxygen absorbers. These jars, if you haven't seen my past videos, $4.99. If you've got an IKEA, they're amazing. They seal. You can use them over and over again. This actually has 2 oxygen absorbers, 2 300 cc's. I'm not even panicked that this is going to fly open because it is sealed, this jar. So if you can't get mason jars, look at IKEA. If you don't have an IKEA, do another option. All we're trying to do is keep the heat off our product. We want it in a dark area like a closet. And oxygen is one of the things that destroy your product. So if you can use oxygen absorbers, if you can use a brake bleeder to remove the air, a food saver, you're only benefiting the longer term of your food. Doesn't mean that you can't just put rice in a jar. This one here, I've got some lasagna noodles that I did. This is going to be so much better as is versus just leaving it in a box where mice, rodents can get into it, bugs. So that's what I'm talking about is you can, if you don't have the funds, then try just to do the best that you can do, because that's all we can do is the best that we can do. I have a container back here, 2.5 gallons with a gamma lid, if you have that ability. So I'm trying to always give you options. You don't have jars, you've got food saver bags, sucks the oxygen out. If you don't have food saver bags, you've got Mylar, put some oxygen absorbers in this, seal it with a curling iron, seal it with your iron. There's always examples that you can do to extend your food preps. Now I'm going to finish this video out. I hope it wasn't too long and too crazy for you. I just want everybody that does prep to consciously think about continuing to prep. I prep every day because it is a lifestyle for me. I do it, I replenish what I have, and be it certain times, I may amp up my preps even more because I'm not quite sure what's going to happen this election, so I'm always amping up my preps. If you don't have the funds, Yarn Prepper, I had a discussion with her on canning. She decided she's not going to use a canner. She's not going to use mason jars. But she's got other things in play, other things that she thinks about that she can do in case of a power outage, in case there's no food. She's got all this planned, and she has made a conscious decision not to use a canner. As long as you're thinking and thinking about the next step, thinking about the next thing, you don't have to do what I say. You do what works best for you. And this is where it's going to end. Going back to, go to valuable sources. There's a ton of prepping videos out there right now, and they're the newbies that are trying to get that YouTube piece of pie. I just keep going back to, stick with the tried and true people that have been around and have learned, and learn from their mistakes, so that you don't have to learn from your mistakes. You learn from ours, and it is just more economical to learn that way than to get a whack with a bunch of money down the drain because you learned the hard way. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe. And if you want to be notified for future videos, ring the bell. Have a blessed day. This is a cut-in. Sorry I'm not done. Not done yet. I'm always going to tell you, think about water. Water is going to be your number one thing that you need to be concerned with as a prepper. You've got to reconstitute all this food. You have to have water intake. You have to be able to use water to brush your teeth, water to bathe with. You need to know how you're going to filter that water. Are you going to capture rainwater off a roof and collect it in a barrel and have a cistern or some system? Do you have something like a bob that can go into your bathtub and have water? Do you have a pool? Can you keep that pool water clean? Can you filter it? Do you have a Berkey? Do you have water straws, water purification tablets, cases of water, 5-gallon? I don't care what you do. Just keep in mind water and how much one person's going to need. Bye.